Well, Bungie has been through a lot of ups and downs recently just with their games. I mean, we know that after they kind of abandoned Halo, they brought all of that to 343 Industries. They ended up focusing on just the Destiny series, and now they're on Destiny 2, and that has had a lot of success, and still does have a lot of success, and now they are working on their new project called Marathon. I believe that is still in the works. We haven't really gotten much news about it since the teaser trailer dropped, I think like a few years ago, but it should be a pretty good project. But just beyond the games, there has actually been a bit of drama just in terms of the staff and the actual real life working culture at Bungie. You see, this all actually has to do with the Me Too movement that started, years ago. I'm sure you obviously know about this whole thing. Yeah, specifically in work environments, there were various allegations of harassment and misconduct and general, toxic work environments during this whole movement. And we are actually still seeing that movement today. You see, back in 2021, about a year before Sony would end up buying out Bungie, there were these allegations of toxic work environments and even sexism and harassment within the Bungie work environment. This was actually about 3 years ago to the day. I'm seeing that allegations of this started on December 10th, 2021, and when they came to light, Bungie promised that they would investigate that whole situation. Now, fast forward to early this year, they would actually end up firing a person by the name of Christopher Barrett. Now, this is a veteran Bungie developer. Yeah, he had many years there. He worked a lot on Destiny 2, and it looks like he was even working on the upcoming Marathon game. So he was basically fired at the start of this year, and that was that. And it was very, heavily presumed that this was a result of these investigations that had started about 2 years prior. So that was that, and we have not really heard from Chris Barrett much until today. Yeah, so today Chris Barrett took to Twitter or X and basically made this post explaining that he's had basically a difficult year since his departure from Bungie. By the way, I just want to say that he mentioned in this post that he was at Bungie for 25 years. Yeah, wow, that actually means that he has been there since before Halo 1. So anyway, in this post, he announced that he just today filed a lawsuit against Sony and Bungie to, quote, hold them accountable for their conduct and the damage that has been done to my reputation and my career, end quote. So looking into it, it looks like he is actually seeking $200 million from Bungie and Sony, and this is basically for two different allegations, one for defamation and two for breaches of his contract. Now, the contract one is kind of interesting. It is alleged that apparently Bungie actually owed him $45 million worth of, compensation, and he is kind of alleging that they fired him basically to avoid paying him this huge bag of money. And then the defamation of character claim kind of speaks for itself. Kind of interesting, though, that I guess that would kind of be the other half of this. So he's kind of alleging that the defamation of his character is worth $155 million. I think there is kind of more to this that he is alleging, though, but like I said, those are kind of the two main ones. But that being said, I mean, hey, if he was at Bungie for 25 years and had plans to continue on for a lot longer, then hey, maybe it's not so crazy to assume that. Now, as far as the allegations against him, for that toxic work environment and sexism and all of that stuff, he's basically saying that there was an investigation, but that it was heavily flawed and that he was never actually shown the actual results of this investigation. And he's basically saying that he was treated as a sort of scapegoat because Bungie was struggling at that time, basically ever since they had been bought out by Sony a couple years ago. They've kind of been struggling as a company, both just in terms of numbers, but also just to push out products. They've really been working on Marathon for quite some time. I'm sure that's not an actual, direct result of the Sony buyout, but still they've been having all of these issues on top of the obvious big issue of these allegations. Again, he's just kind of saying that he was treated as the scapegoat for Bungie and Sony to basically say, hey, look, we eliminated the problem. There we go. Case closed. So I want to mention too that, yeah, this is a lawsuit apparently against both Bungie and Sony. That's kind of interesting because, I mean, it's a $200 million lawsuit. I don't know kind of the ratio if it's 50-50, but I mean, while Sony is worth a whopping $120 billion, it looks like Bungie is only worth about $3 or $4 billion. Now, don't get me wrong, that's still a lot of money, but let's say they get sued for, 50% of that 200 mil, so that'd be $100 million. I mean, yeah, that'd be quite a bit of their financial portfolio. So this will be a very, very interesting case to follow. I'm interested to see kind of how it turns out. out. Mainly because, I mean, with this whole, Me Too movement, on one hand, I definitely understand there's a lot of terrible, terrible things that can happen in the Hollywood and media industries, so obviously it's fantastic that it is getting exposed. But on the other hand, if it is true that Bungie basically fired this guy with absolutely no evidence of any wrongdoing, well, that could be a problem, and if Chris Barrett's lawyers are able to argue the case, well, he could actually be getting $200 million from Bungie and Sony.